What's going on, everyone? We've got another news update for you. We've got a little bit of a problem in Southern California. There is a tenant that is refusing to leave someone's house that is not theirs. Originally came in as a short-term rental tenant and has figured out how to game the system. This story is going to shock you if you are a human being who believes in common decency and fairness. And we are going to get into it right now. Let's check out this video and then we will talk about it a little more.
Pay her to leave. KTLA's Annie Rose Ramos live in Brentwood to try to explain. Annie Rose, good morning.
It's such a doozy. And now she's saying she won't leave for anything less than $100,000. Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm going to try and explain. We're here in front of said house in Brentwood on Tiger Tail Road. I'll get out of the way so you can take a better look. If you want to see, there's a white gate on the right-hand side. That's the main house where the owner and his family lives currently. Over on the left side, after this truck goes through, you will see that there's a garage and there's an ADU on the other side. That is where the Airbnb guest has been living rent-free.
All right. So first off, it's not uncommon for people to convert garages into ADUs. This is one of the cheaper ways to do it. A lot of people do this, especially in areas where real estate is more valuable, because by losing the garage but gaining the square footage, you can make your property worth more. And then hopefully you can get some cash flow. Let's get back into it.
For the past year and a half. All right, she's now being called by the homeowner's attorney, the Airbnb guest from hell. Here's more of what he had to say.
In my review of a lot of the emails at the end of the 6 months, she started coming up with a bunch of reasons not to leave, relocations, a whole bunch of things. And in my view, the whole plan was to extort money from him so that she would leave. So we filed a lawsuit to evict her, the unlawful detainer, and then we filed one for damages for back rent. He's very frustrated. He's got a person that's hostile across from him, won't let him in to even see the place, which he has a right to. Our goal is to have her evicted by law. And then our goal is to have a judgment against her that's on paper so that other people of LA will know that people do this.
Okay, here's how it all started. Elizabeth Hirschhorn rented the Airbnb until March 2022, only she never left. According to the LA Times, who obtained the lawsuit, the owner of the house, Sasha Jovanovic, said it said she could stay for a few more weeks, which she did, and then stayed for another year and a half without paying rent. The LA Times reporting the tenant, Elizabeth, is suing, saying the two sides had a long-term lease separate from Airbnb, and then she contacted the city of LA, who said the ADU isn't up to code, and that the homeowner could not evict her until he could prove the unit was up to code. Well, see, he says he wants to make the necessary changes inside the unit, but that the tenant won't let him in. Now, the tenant, Elizabeth Hirschhorn, is asking for $100,000 in order to get out, and the homeowner, Sasha Jovanovic, is asking for over $60,000 in what she owes in rent. He says he's scared for his safety living next to this woman. We reached out to her attorney and have yet to hear back. But neighbors, I got to tell you, we've spoken to them this morning, and they are on the owner side. Take a listen.
Yeah, and it's not fair to the other neighbors too. I mean, it's scary for the other neighbors. Who knows what she sounds very evil to me. I'd be scared to live next door. I mean, there's a lot of kids around here. I don't know what kind of person she is to do this. She's not a kind person. Who knows? And he has kids.
I just want you to take a minute, step outside of the business element of this, okay? Because I know if you're a real estate investor, you're probably fuming right now. It gets worse, but just think about a human being, okay? This is your home. You agree to let someone stay there in a business contract. You assume that this is a normal person if they can afford to pay whatever your fees are in Brentwood, California. This is not the same Brentwood that my office is in. This is actually Southern California, so it's even more expensive than Brentwood down there. This person moves in. Not only do they refuse to leave, but this is the place where your family lives. Okay, I just want you to imagine if you brought someone into your house and they rented a room from you and they wouldn't leave your home. Okay, think about if this was like a dinner guest that you invited over and they brought a friend and that friend was like, yeah, I'm not leaving. You have to evict me if you want me to leave. You don't know who they are. You don't feel that safe with this person. You don't know what they're up to. You don't know what they're doing in your home. and the legal system is actually against you. Okay. You like, we're going to get into it in again here. I just want you to think about how that would feel emotionally if you were in this exact same position. And this is your house that you live in. This is not just an investment property. This is your house and the person won't leave.
All right, you might be wondering where Airbnb comes in all this, because all of this started with a rental listed on their website. Well, they say because the homeowner let the tenant stay for a few more weeks after that lease or rental expired, that they wipe their hands of this entire business. They wipe their hands of any involvement.
Okay, so you do the right thing where you feel is the right thing. You're being kind. You let them stay later because they asked for it. You think you're being nice. And that actually ends up working against you. The tenant played on your emotions where you're trying to be the good person, where we all get raised. If you do the right thing, you'll be okay. The tenant does the wrong thing, and Airbnb says, hey, because you did that, because you gave grace to this person, we don't have to be involved anymore.
They say they aren't responsible. They've even taken down this rental property on their website, saying that the owner violated their terms of service. And so now this owner is on his own, as is the tenant, who says she's not going anywhere.
So you reach out to Airbnb, you ask for some support. You're like, hey, this psycho won't leave my house. They came from here. Can you let them know that their account will be suspended? Can you give me some kind of legal advice? What do I do? You help me find this person, and they moved into my house, and Airbnb says, not our problem, bro.
Basically, this is a big red flag for a lot of folks who rent their rooms or any part of their home, to really know the terms and the conditions with which you're using Airbnb or any other website, VRBO, when you're doing an entering. Reporting live from Brentwood, I'll send it back to you both in the studio.
Sounds like continued employment for lawyers with that particular case. Annie Rose, thank you so much for that.
Hey, man.
All right. Man, that video ended a little abruptly there. Looked like there were some technical details, but wow. Simply wow. Now, here's what I understand. The owner of the home has actually reached out to a judge, and it's made its way in front of the court. And what the judge said, this is what I read in a different article, was that because this unit was not permitted to be used for an additional dwelling, it doesn't mean it's unsafe. It doesn't mean that the place is going to fall apart. It just means that the person fixed up their own home, but they didn't go to the city and say, can I do this work? That they don't have a legal right to get the person out of the unit, and they have some form of squatter's rights. Now, here's what's crazy, because many of you are probably thinking, look, just go in there and pick them up and carry them out, or change the door lock so that they can't get back into the property, right? Turn off the water, do something so that they can't live there. And I know that sounds like common sense, and I'm not a lawyer, but in most cases, that would actually get the homeowner in more trouble. That he, in the world that we live in right now, that he would be viewed as the bad guy because he was trying to get somebody out of his own home. And to make this even worse, the tenant has figured out that they have this right, and they are asking for $100,000 to leave. Okay. Like, I just want you to think about this. Somebody goes, you give them a ride. They refuse to get out of your car. You say it's time to leave, and they say no. Not only do they not leave the car because maybe your registration was paid late, or there's some type of like municipal violation going on, but they say you have to give me $20,000 if you want me to get out of your car. And if you try to push them out of the car or pull them out of the car, you're going to be the one who gets charged for the crime. That is an analogy of what is going on in this situation right now with someone who booked through Airbnb. Now, this is frankly scary. At least it's making the news, right? But I promise you, there will be a contingency of people that will be angry at me for making a video that makes it sound like I'm on the landlord side. Okay. Like, there is a growing animosity towards real estate investors. And hey, we may have earned some of that on ourselves by just doing shady stuff. We all know that there's slumlords out there. A lot of them are not great, but I don't know if it's even the majority of landlords. My guess would be that all this animosity towards the people who own the real estate is due to rising rents. And it's easier to be mad at the person raising your rent than it is to be mad at the economic policies that have created the inflation that leads to the rising rent. Again, I'm speculating. I'm sort of projecting into the story. I don't know the details of what's going on. I haven't talked to Sasha, but my understanding is he's a dentist. He obviously has some very expensive real estate that he probably saved up for a long time to buy. This room was used as a playroom for his kids, which nobody had a problem with. There was no issue with this being unpermitted work. By the way, if you're a realtor like me and you sell houses, I think 100% of every house that I've ever been in had some form of unpermitted stuff done to it. And I'm not exaggerating that. I mean, when you go to get permits, like if you're going to flip a house, okay, in Contra Costa County, I've flipped houses here before. You have to get a permit if you want to change the flooring in your home. Okay. So you want to add tile flooring, or you want to take out the carpet and put in some kind of LVP, needs a permit. You want to change the light fixture on the wall, needs a permit. You want to change the faucet in your sink, needs a permit. I would speculate here that the majority of you watching this have had someone that changed out one of the sinks in your house and you didn't go to the city and get a permit. That you've changed light fixtures and you didn't get a permit. That maybe you even had a hole in the drywall that was repaired, or you put up another wall in your house to do something and you didn't get a permit. You are unpermitted. And that's where this whole logic of, well, they didn't have a permit for this unit. Of course, they should have done that. But I don't think that it's fair that just because they made a mistake of that size, that they're being held hostage with a ransom of $100,000 that they have to pay to get somebody out of their own house. And here's my fear. What if other tenants hear about this story, which they're going to, and start looking at the same thing? What if the tenants just become smarter than the landlords? And even though you make a small mistake, maybe it's not getting a permit, but it's something else. Your door frame is the wrong size, or your windows weren't updated, and they find some loophole to say, I don't have to leave your house because of this loophole. This is what's scaring me. I see you in the comments and you're saying, hey, this was California. That's tenant friendly. I get it. In general, we are a tenant-friendly area, but I invest all over the country, and I found that most areas, it is the rule, not the exception, that they will take the tenant side in most things. And here's what's crazy. The growing animosity towards the owner of the property or the owner of the company or whatever, we're all angry at the big guy, right? Like you see in the NFL, the players will hold out. They'll have a contract that pays them a certain amount of money for a certain amount of years, and they'll have a really good year. And they'll come back and say, I want more money. And the owner will say, no, I'm not going to give you more money. We have an agreement. When your contract is up, then you can have more money. And the player will say, well, then I'm just not going to show up to training camp. We always tend to side with the player and say the greedy owner should pay him more money. But let me ask a question. This is what I've always wondered. And I'm not just saying this because I'm the owner, and just to be objective. If the player has a bad year and they don't perform like the owner was expecting, can the owner go back to them and say, hey, I know we have an agreement and I was going to pay you, but I've decided not to unless you take less money on your deal? Can they go back and say, hey, I'm going to pay you less. I know we have a legally binding contract here, but I'm not going to put you on the field unless you take less money? Doesn't work that way. For whatever reason, it's this one-way valve where you only can be angry at someone if they're in a position where that's appearing to be advantageous. And this is now happening to landlords. It's happening to property owners. I am worried that the future of real estate is moving in this direction, where it's going to be harder and harder and harder to be able to make money through real estate if you own it, because you're going to be getting tenants that are like a network of professional tenants that come up with these loopholes because everyone's angry about how high rents are and how expensive housing is, and how hard it is to make ends meet with inflation. So I wanted to bring you this story just because it's trending right now in the news. It's very interesting. And if you're somebody who is intending to make money through real estate, probably the case if you're following me, you should be aware of things like this. But even on a deeper note, I don't know that there's anything you can do to stop this from happening to you. I hope to God this does not become a trend of people booking stays at Airbnbs and refusing to leave, and the municipal governments having to get involved in kicking people out, because the news will spin it to where these poor victims are being evicted from their home, even though they've only lived in it for 3 weeks or something like that. And the landlords are in a position where the bank still wants the payment from them. The state still wants their property taxes. The insurance company still needs their payments. But the place where that money comes from, the tenant, they don't have to pay anymore. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Please do me a favor and like this video as well. Share it with someone that you know that owns an Airbnb. Make sure that they're aware of this, and follow me so you can get information about stuff like this when it comes up. Make sure that you hit the notification bell so you get the notification when I go live. I will be coming live a little bit later today and every day in the future, bringing you guys these news sources.